Right. So get this. We are diving into the world of gold loans in India today. And wow, it is a wild ride, let me tell you.
Yeah.
It seems like it should be so simple, right? Like rock solid, it's gold.
Right.
But buckle up. We're about to uncover some serious cracks in the foundation.
It's true. We are going to take a magnifying glass to a recent FinShots article. It's called "Why is the RBI Cracking Down on Gold Loans?"
Yeah.
They published it on October 7th, 2024.
On cracking down might be putting it mildly from what I've seen here. We're talking about ghost loans, shady auctions, and enough twists and turns to make your head spin.
Right.
And this isn't just about numbers. This is about how these risky practices impact real people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking of real people, why don't we start with a story that sounds like something straight out of like a financial thriller, you know? So imagine this. You walk into a bank, you're ready to pledge your family gold, maybe you need a loan for something, only to find out later that the bank never actually had the gold to lend against in the first place.
Wait, what? How is that even possible?
I know, right? Well, so that's exactly what happened. This came to light last year with the Bank of Baroda. It seems that some bank employees were issuing what can only be described as ghost loans.
Ghost loans.
Yeah, they were essentially fabricating loans, like creating them out of thin air with no actual gold as collateral.
So they were just making stuff up. How do you even get away with that?
Well, it seems that they were under immense pressure to meet, ambitious loan targets. So they allegedly colluded with certain customers, dispersed loans without any real collateral, and then just cooked the books to make everything appear on the up and up.
Okay, so they were basically playing a high-stakes game of financial make-believe.
Right.
But like all good illusions, eventually the truth comes out.
Exactly. And it all unraveled when the Bank of Baroda's internal audit team, they noticed something fishy. They saw a suspiciously high number of gold loan accounts being closed, like the very same day they were opened.
Oh, okay, that's a pretty obvious red flag. Like, who takes out a loan and then repays it immediately? Something's not right there.
Right. And this discovery sent shockwaves through the industry. So the RBI, seeing this blatant disregard for the rules, they decided to investigate other major players in the gold loan market. One of those was IFL Finance.
Oh boy, here we go again. What were they up to?
Yeah, so it seems they were also trying to bend the rules, cutting corners to push through more loans. They were accused of undervaluing the gold being pledged, exceeding permissible lending limits, basically just throwing caution to the wind.
So it's starting to look like maybe this isn't just a few bad apples, but a systemic issue here.
Right.
And that's when the RBI has to kind of step in and say, hold on a minute, we need to get to the bottom of this.
Precisely. They realized that these weren't just isolated incidents.
Right.
There were potentially widespread problems with how gold loans were being managed across the board, and they needed to take a closer look.
Okay, so let's talk about what they found. This is where things get really interesting. From what I understand, the RBI's investigation, it uncovered this whole web of questionable practices, right?
Yeah, it did. And one of the things they discovered is that many banks, in an attempt to streamline their operations, had outsourced their gold loan operations to, third-party companies, mainly these new age fintech companies.
Right.
Now, on the surface, that doesn't sound like a bad thing, right?
No. Fintech is supposed to be all about efficiency, making things easier for the customer.
Exactly.
So what's the problem?
Well, the problem is that in their rush to speed things up, some of these fintech companies were skipping some pretty crucial steps.
Okay.
For instance, they were valuing the gold without the customer even being present.
Hold on. I'm not sure I follow. How can they value the gold if the customer isn't even there? Don't they need to physically inspect it?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's like buying a house without a proper inspection. You're relying on someone else's word. And that's incredibly risky when you're dealing with, something as valuable as gold.
Okay, that makes sense. So they're essentially taking shortcuts to push through more loans, but in doing so, they're increasing the risk for everyone involved.
Yeah.
And this is where the loan to value ratio comes into play, right? That infamous LTV.
You got it.
That we hear so much about.
The LTV, that's where things can get really tricky, especially when you have lenders who aren't really monitoring it closely, which is what the RBI found in many cases.
All right, so for those of us who might not be financial wizards, can you break down this whole LTV thing?
Sure.
What is it?
So think of it like this. If your gold is worth, let's say, 100 and the LTV is 75%, you can borrow up to 75 against that gold. So it's like a safety buffer, right?
Right.
But as we've seen, that buffer can evaporate pretty quickly if gold prices drop. And remember, gold prices can be as unpredictable as, well, anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So if the price of gold goes down, the value of that collateral also goes down, which means the lender's risk goes up.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
And that's why it's so important for lenders to monitor that LTV ratio very, very carefully, especially in a volatile market like we've seen recently.
But it sounds like that wasn't happening as diligently as it should have been in a lot of cases. And to make matters worse, the RBI also uncovered this practice of evergreening loans, which honestly, when I first heard that term, I thought, well, that sounds kind of nice. Like you're giving the loan a fresh coat of paint.
Right. It sounds very environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's anything but.